Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Mindset Reset Monday, and we're talking about how to elevate in your life. Um, how to rise, right? This week we're talking about strengthening. So I'm excited. Like always, I'm excited for this conversation. So, who is this session for today? So this session is for you if you keep putting off your next steps because you just don't feel ready. All right. It's for you if you've been doubting yourself and really wanting to feel more qualified, right? That kind of suffering from imposter syndrome. If you've got a vision but you've been waiting for confidence to really you've been waiting for the confidence to truly catch up, right? So you've got this vision, but you just been waiting for this confidence. I want to talk about this, right? I want you to think, okay, what's a story that you've been telling yourself about why you're not ready yet? Right. What's a story that you've been telling yourself about why you are not ready yet? Okay. Sometimes we really mistake uncertainty for unworthiness, you guys. We really mistake uncertainty for unworthiness. But if you don't, if you don't feel the confidence, right? If you don't feel confidence, then sometimes you just don't feel powerful, right? And to feel powerful or to feel that confidence, sometimes you guys, you just need to move. You just need to move. All right. Confidence grows through practice, not through perfectionism. Confidence grows through practice, not through perfectionism. So again, this week we're talking about why confidence, or today we're talking about why confidence is a muscle and not a trait, right? And all today we're talking about stories, right? It's Monday. So Mindset Reset Monday, and we're talking about stories. And this week's theme is really building confidence with practice and repetition, right? It's all about strengthening this week. It's the S in rise, right? We know that this month we're talking about how to rise, right? How to elevate our mindset. And this week we're talking about strengthening. The overall goal is to really help you trust that confidence is cultivated and not something that we inherit, right? So we inherit like our noses, our foreheads, our skin color, a lot of genes. But confidence is not one of those things that we inherit, right? It shows up in our daily habits, in how we really talk to ourselves, and in our internal authority, right? Or internal authority are the seeds that really activate, right, confidence. All right. So why am I talking about this today? Or why this session? Really to disrupt the old beliefs that confidence is reserved for those people, those other people who seem to have the confidence, right? To really activate the truth that anyone can build confidence, right? Anyone can build it through repetition, permission, and practice. All right. So today's lesson is really is intended to break the myths of readiness and really teach you how to stop waiting and really start becoming. I meet so many people, and I've had this conversation with you all before. That's like, I'm just waiting till I get confident enough, or I just don't have the confidence, or really struggle with perfectionism, and really suffer from a lot of all of the byproducts, right, of this misbelief that confidence is something you're born with. Confidence is something that should just be there, and it's like, no, it's not. Listen, the disclaimer for this session will help you recognize the role that your inner story really plays and how you show up, you guys. Okay. But awareness alone does not build confidence. All right. So just knowing just doesn't build a confidence, right? Repetition, aligned actions, and emotional support are what move you forward. So if you're ready to experience real self trust, then this is your practice ground, but we all know that you have to activate, right? You have to get in motion. All right. So good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's Mindset Reset Monday. All right. It's Mindset Reset Monday. I'm ready to take a deep breath with you guys. Yeah, so this is our time, right? This is your time, my time, right? So just no pressure, just our presence on this morning. So good morning. Want to welcome you back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. Um, if you are new here, I'm Dr. Sheila Little, creator of the Stop and Now method, right? And the life lessons is truly a practice, right? It's an initiative through Project Life, and Project Life is where we turn theory into practice. All right. So good morning. Yeah, drop a word in the chat and describe how you feeling today. No judgment, just your awareness. As you can see, I still have the nasally feel. I went to the doctor's on Friday, found out I did have some infection in my nose, right? Some swelling right in my face that this infection is really causing. Yeah, and so it's going to be nasally for a minute. But I was relieved, right, to really realize, okay, so for the last couple of months, it's not just me, right? This kind of fatigue and all of that. So I'm working on that. So this morning I'm grateful, a little more laid back this morning, just because it's one of those mornings. Okay, so how are you feeling this morning? Overall, there's some gratitude, right? Optimism for this week. Is there anything that you guys need supported in? Drop it in the chat, or DM me for this week. Any encouragement? Follow up with me in the DMs. But good morning overall. It's Mindset Reset Monday, and we're talking about confidence, you guys. Talking about confidence. Good morning, Candace. We're talking about confidence. All right. All right. So here's our guiding quote for today. Confidence is built through movement, not mastery, you guys. So I really want to let's really normalize being in process and not so much perfection. So Miss Candace says she's irritated with herself. You want to talk about that, Miss Candace? Um, Sometimes that happens. I say that we have to give space for all emotions, right? And then what? Right. And then what do? We have to get into movement, right? And move that energy. Why? Because we know that there's the law of polarity. So if I'm frustrated or irritated, that means that there's a goal that I'm trying to achieve, right? So let's meet the irritation. Okay. And then and give it space to do what it's going to do. And then, what is it that you want? And if you need support, get in there. Make sure you DM me and let's talk about it. All right. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So we know that I said let's really normalize, right? Confidence as more of a practice or a process than something that it has to be perfect, right? Something this thing about perfection, right? Because if it's a process, guess what? It's still powerful. It's still powerful, you guys. Listen, confidence isn't or is not a personality trait, right? It's a trained response, you guys. It's a trained response, and it is developed through repeated exposure to what? To the edge of your comfort zone. All right, to the edge of your comfort zone. Confidence is developed, right, by repeated exposure of you taking the risk of being what? At the edge of your comfort zone. Listen, if you believe confidence is something that's fixed, right? It's something that you're born with, it's something that you should have, it's something that you should already have. Guess what? You're disqualifying yourself from the opportunities that were meant for you to grow. All right. You don't need to feel confident. You don't need to feel confident to become confident, you guys. You need to feel committed. All right. You don't need to feel confident to become confident. You just need to feel committed. Good morning, Miss Sharon. All right. All right. Let me tell you, I have a lot of different clients, right? That I want to talk about these real life examples. So I have this person, I'm gonna go call her Tasha, right? So Tasha, she just sits in meetings, right? Knowing more than half of the room, but she don't speak, right? Why is she not speaking? Because she's not confident, right? I have Darrens, right? These Darrens who really rewrite their launch emails for 7, 8, 9, 10 times, right? But still doesn't feel ready, right? So, but he still doesn't feel ready to launch his business, to really do the thing, right? I have Ariels, right? Ariels is the women who think that love will come once she's healed enough, right? They all rehearse the same lie, right? That confidence is like this prerequisite to what? To the love, prerequisite to engaging with people, the prerequisite to being the CEO, right, of their life and of their business. When in truth, right, confidence is the byproduct. It's what you get after you've done the things, right? Getting in front of the the video every day. It's not, when I first started this, and still even now, right? There's a level of uncertainty, there's a level of, angst, there's a level of all of that, right? And I get confident as I do it, right? The more that I do it, then the more confident that I get, in this. And the same applies to everybody, right? So confidence is not the thing that we start with. It's a byproduct of starting, learning some more, right? And eventually I'll get there. Good morning, Miss Jackie. Good morning, Miss Jackie. Listen, one woman from our community said, I kept waiting for the moment I'd be brave enough to post, to speak, or to even share my work. But that moment, guess what? It never came. Every time I every time I waited to feel ready, I ended up talking myself out of it, right? So we started to work together. So we worked together on really disrupting that inner story, right? And she started taking what? Small actions anyway, right? She moved with the fear. All right. So voice notes to friends, right? Short videos, journaling, right? Publicly, right? Just kind of putting her thoughts out there. And she said to me, listen, I didn't become confident and then start showing up. I showed up. And that is what made me confident, right? Um, Sorry to hear that. Hope you feeling that. Oh, thank you, Miss Jackie. Miss Jackie said, sorry to hear that. I hope I'm feeling better. I am. I do this little like nose thingy and some other stuff. But yeah, I do. I do feel better. It's still like this pressure. I said that I feel like I look tired, like I look like this yeah, like I'm just tired and like it's all in my face, right? It's all in my face. All right. She said, I'm up. Already missed my 9 o'clock. Well, you're gonna get there, Miss Jackie. You're gonna get there. I'm sure you're gonna work it out. All right. Candace said, so she was irritated with herself, just to catch you guys up. So Candace said she was irritated with herself for making a bad decision. All right. Um, and I understand that. And I understand that 100%. Sometimes we make bad decisions and we will beat ourselves up about it. I encourage you to find out, one, why do you think it's a bad decision? And then two, what did you learn? Right? Again, we have to start incorporating these universal laws. And we have to understand too that you guys, we are addicted to a lot of people. I can't say everybody, but we are addicted to punishing ourselves. All right. We will get stuck in this cycle of I made a bad decision, I did something bad, and it's really a replication of the energy that we're used to, the judgment, the shame, the guilt, and we will then start to take on that voice and that narrative and do it ourselves. Now, Miss Candace, I don't know your situation or what the bad decision was, nor do I know the extent of the consequence of that bad decision, right? Every action, there is a consequence that um, every action, right? There is a consequence to a decision, all right? And I don't know the extent of that, but what I know is that there's also a lesson, all right? And what we have to do is really prepare ourselves for the totality of the experience, all right? Meaning that I'm going to have to go through this consequence and right, and I have to also give myself grace enough to understand that it's a part of the plan, it's a part of the lesson. And am I emotionally available enough and vulnerable enough to really start to respond to life in a way where I can accept direction, I can accept this feedback. Candace said I came on today and I was going to say you look refreshing. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I think that we have a spectrum of things, and we've all fallen into this trap of we have not made the best decision. Let's bring that into today's conversation, talking about confidence. I think that when we don't make decisions, right? When we make bad decisions or we don't do something perfect the first time, what does it do? It sometimes can support this narrative that the next time I start, I have to be more perfect, or I have to be more prepared, or I need to be more confident, right? When the truth of the matter is, each one of these eras that we're taking, each one of these steps that we're taking, right, is getting us more positioned for the step, right? It's getting us more positioned for the thing that we're looking for. And if we give up or if we stop, then we'll never build the momentum, we'll never build the relationship, we'll never build the thread, right? That's required to get to the other side, to get to the other side. Good morning, brother. Good morning, brother. All right. So, like I was saying, I know a woman for my community who said that, she kept waiting for the moment to post, right, to feel brave, right? And then she ended up saying, listen, I didn't become confident and then start showing up, right? She started showing up, and as a consequence, guess what? She became more confident. And guess what? She made mistakes. She got it wrong. She was frustrated. She was overwhelmed, right? And these are things that we need to start introducing into life, okay? All right. Listen, the turning point wasn't hype. It was her habit, right? The turning point wasn't this motivation. It was like her habit. All right. She realized confidence didn't really come before the action, right? It was built during doing it scared, right? It was built when she moved with the fear. She moved with the scare, right? Confidence is real, you guys, but it's built, not born. All right. Confidence is a real thing. It does transform how you show up. When you have it and you in relationship with confidence, listen, nobody can't tell you nothing, but you build that. Okay, you're not built with that. And when we see people who have a relationship with confidence and bring confidence in the room with them, right? We're like, oh, I want that. And we in our minds, we think that in some way God blessed them with that thing and he didn't bless us, or in some way they have that and we don't have it, when the truth of the matter is that they built it and you have to build it too, all right? Because you're not born with it. Listen, confidence doesn't need your perfection, all right? It just needs your permission, right? It needs your permission to exist in your life. It needs your permission to, in a way, build this relationship with it. And this is where we activate. This is where we do things over and over and over again. So here's our heart check-in this morning. I want you to pause and I want you to ask yourself, what's one story I've been telling myself about why I'm not ready? Okay. I want you to write that story down, right? And let's work with it, not around it, right? Let's work with the truth of this story, all right? Because so many of us are saying we're not ready for the relationship, we're not ready for the job, we're not ready for, I don't know, whatever the thing is, because we're waiting for some miraculous thing to happen. And it's like, no, the thing you need is right there, right? When you start, it's going to be there, all right? And I say that because I had a client that told me, again, she was waiting for confidence, right? But it wasn't until she recognized that she was scared, you guys, right? And realized and stepped into that, right? And realized that that fear was just a feeling and not fact, right? It's like, I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you're so scared, so scared, so scared. I'm gonna use what's coming up in my spirit is like, if you ever been to Cedar Point and you get on a ride, some of you experienced the ride and said, nope, I ain't never getting back on it. But some of us have experienced the ride and like, you know what? I'm so scared. I'm so scared. And then you get on it and you realize it is something totally different, right? It's like, oh my God, that was amazing. I want to go back on again, right? That everything in you was telling you not to do the ride, not to do the thing. It's so scary. And then once you did it, you realize that it was amazing, right? And this is again what the brain does, it's trying to keep you safe. And again, keeping you safe from an experience that you've never experienced before. All right. All right. So again, she was waiting to feel confidence, but it wasn't until she said yes, right? Yes, scared, and realized that her fear was just a feeling, you guys, and it wasn't fact. Again, research just shows and confirms that confidence increases after the actions is taken, not before. Okay. So the more we do something, the more confidence we're going to feel at it. Listen, the brain rewires itself through evidence of action, not just affirmation alone, right? And this is what you want. This is what you want. You want the evidence of action, because even the way you talk about a thing, right, will be expressed differently when you've been through it. Okay. When you've been through it. All right. Listen, confidence isn't something that you're born with, right? It's something you become familiar with through practice. It's something that you build a relationship with, right, through practice. If we saw, and I say that we're in relationship with everything, and we're even in relationship with these emotions, okay? And so confidence is, if that's an emotional state or a mindset or whatever, and I'm building a relationship with it, the more I'm familiar with it, like I would build a relationship with my car or my home or, you know, I don't know, an individual, right? The more I become familiar with it, the more I introduce it, the more I'm doing the thing that I'm trying to do. Guess what? That practice is building that confidence muscle in me to talk about this more fluently, to do this thing more fluent, to show up more fluently. All right. If that makes sense, put a one in the chat. Listen, the more you stretch this muscle, the less foreign it will feel to you. All right. Waiting to feel confidence before acting is like waiting to get strong before lifting the weight. All right. Listen, waiting to feel confident before acting is like waiting to get strong before you actually start lifting the weight. It's like I'm not going to lift 200 pounds, right, until I'm strong enough to lift 200 pounds. Well, how you going to get strong enough to lift 200 pounds if you don't start lifting some weight, right? Right. And so this is the same thing as confidence. Listen, because if you believe confidence is fixed, it's something you're born with, right? It's something that you just have, then you're disqualifying yourself again from everything that requires courage, right? From everything that requires courage, because when you shift your belief, right? When you shift your belief, you really stop waiting to feel ready and start showing up for life, you guys. And I always say, and I had this talk with my son, he might get on me about this, okay? But I told my son, like, you need courage. All right. The thing that you're looking for is not confidence, it's courage, right? You need courageous, right? We need to be courageous. And to me, the difference between courage and confidence is the competency, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, but confidence is the competency, right? I've done this thing enough. Courage is the risk. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't really know, but I'm a jump, right? And so many of us need to be more courageous, all right, not more confident, because you don't have the competency. You don't have the practice to even say that I'm confident, right? But you do have the will, you do have the desire, you do have the want. And because you have the want, the desire, and the will, guess what? You can activate courageousness. You can be courageous. You can activate this thing called courage. Well, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to step out. I'm just going to do that on faith. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, put a two in the chat. So we're not really lacking confidence, you guys. Well, a lot of us are lacking courage. All right. Put courage in the chat for me. If that makes sense, right? Listen, when you, again, confidence isn't fixed, it, it because if you believe that confidence is fixed, again, you'll disqualify yourself from everything that requires courage. But when you start to shift this belief, again, you stop waiting to feel ready and start showing up for life. Listen, when you realize confidence is earned in your doing, right? You stop needing to deserve it beforehand, right? And so many of us feel entitled to this thing of confidence when we're not really activating courage, right? And confidence is a lot of things in life isn't earned, like your worth. That's not something that you earn, right? Your value, that's not something that you earn, right? But this thing of confidence, it is earned, right? It's earned in your activity, all right? So you move, so when you realize confidence is earned and you're doing right, you stop needing to deserve it beforehand. You move not because you're fearless, you guys, but because you're faithful, right? Because you're faithful of your future self, or you're faithful to your future self. All right. So Candace said, is it possible to have courage but not confidence? Yes, absolutely. Thank you. That's a great question. So is it possible to have courage but not confidence? Yes. Because here's the thing. Courage is me taking the risk. Now, say that I take this risk, Candace, right? and I'm going to do the thing, and I fail, right? It didn't do. I blumbered over my words. I talked myself up, and I did the courageous thing. I took the risk, but it didn't do what I thought it was going to do. All right. So I stopped, right? And when you stop, that is to answer your question, is it possible to have courage and not confidence? Yeah, because you didn't continue to do the thing, right? You didn't continue to do the thing that will build the confidence. Remember, confidence at its root word is confide, and confide means to trust. All right. So, one, courageousness is off faith. It's I'm taking a risk, right? Now confidence is a competency. Now just say I'm taking a risk to go talk to somebody and I don't know, tell them about my business. All right. And I'm like, or to see if they want to do my services. I'm just see if they want to do my services. And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, I got rejected. Maybe I'm not ready. So I'm not going to ask anybody else, right? So I'm never going to be confident in pitching my services because I allowed that one situation to stop me, right? Even though I was courageous enough to ask, once I got rejected, right? Nobody really likes to feel rejection. So I stopped. But just say I'm like, okay, that's one down. I'm gonna do it again. And I'm gonna do it again. And guess what? The more I ask, and maybe now I'm like, well, why are you not ready? Right? Is it something about my program? Like I'm getting information, right? I'm getting information. And as I'm getting information, guess what? I'm building more confidence. So the first person I asked, I was courageous enough to ask, and I probably fumbled over words. They probably asked me stuff I didn't really know the answer, right? Right. Now, the 30th person that I asked, though, right, I find that I'm more confident in how I'm describing my services. I'm more confident in what I'm saying I'm offering, right? But that was after 30 rejections, 30 times of me courageously asking for somebody to buy my services. And now I find though that I'm even more confident in asking. I'm more confident in receiving the rejection. I'm more confident in articulating like what I actually do because each time I got rejected, guess what? There was insight and information there that strengthened what my confidence. So Miss Candace said, trust in the process, confide, got it, love, the lesson here. Thank you, Candace. Right. So listen, I do want you guys to know that that psychology studies or psychological studies show that competency leads to confidence. Okay. Again, the thing that you're competent in, right? It leads to competency. So not the other way around. So taking small steps, consistent actions really trains the brain to associate effort with progress, right? So, which rewrites your self belief over time. So, the more I do something, the more competent I feel, the more competent I am, the more confident I feel, the more confident I feel, the more my brain will start to rewire itself, right? And to rewire that belief, right, over time. All right. And that's the thing that we have to give ourselves time because confidence isn't magic, you guys. It is a muscle memory. It's in our muscle memory. And you've got everything you need to really start building the confidence that you're looking for today. Okay, you have that today. All right. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. Listen, we know that today we're talking about stories. On Mondays, we always talk about stories, right? And how and so you are not lacking confidence, all right? You are still living from an outdated story. All right. So today is really about updating the narrative and really activating this muscle. One of the interesting things, one of the interesting conversations that I'm constantly having with my brand person, right, with my thought partner, right, to really strengthen these life lessons, to really strengthen Project Life and any other service that I provide, is really trying to understand these stories, right, the stories that my quote unquote avatars or idea clients are telling themselves, not so much out loud to other people, but inside, right? So I want to talk about the connection between your stories and your beliefs, right, which is your stories, in this in strength, right, in this ability to be strong in how we show up and what we do, right, and how we live. Listen, your stories, they truly shape your belief, you guys, but your beliefs, right, it really shape your strength. All right. So your stories, they shape your belief, and then your beliefs is what shapes your strength. All right. So the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what's possible for our life, and what we're allowed to do, literally becomes the blueprint for our confidence. All right. So if your story is I'm not ready, right? Your belief becomes that I can't start, right? Because the story that I'm not ready is intricately tied into I can't start. And if you can't start, you guys, guess what? Your strength never gets activated. All right. So the muscle of confidence only grows when your mindset gives it permission to lift something. And guess what? Lift something different. All right. To lift something different, to lift a new belief, to lift a new opportunity, to lift expansion, you know, and just to lift you to the person you are today. I have to be honest that a lot of us are trying to grow, a lot of us are trying to expand, but we have not, in a sense, ooh, so we have not, um caught the ball. The analogy that came up for me in my to my women, I apologize if you don't understand this analogy. But in sports, when you catch the ball, you have to, in a sense, have the ball. All right. It's called like a down. Like, so if you in football, the ball can't like fumble in your hand, right? Like in some way you have to secure it. When you catch the basketball, right, you have to catch it and then get into a stance where you can pivot the ball, right? If you don't, it's called a travel, right? If you don't truly catch and dribble and do all that, right? And in life, sometimes we're trying to grow, but we haven't secured the bag. We haven't secured the ball, you know? And so it's like, I think that a big part of of our becoming is just securing your todayness. All right. Just securing who you are today, and accepting like the stuff that comes with today. And a lot of us are trying to skip over so many todays and get to this future person, but how can I even become the future person that I'm desiring to become if I haven't secured the person I am today? If I haven't accepted that person, if I haven't forgiven that person, if I haven't come to understand that person's need, right? And so many of us are jumping over our today, right, to try to get to our tomorrow. And guess what? We're never experiencing our tomorrows. Okay. So I know we talk about expansion and growth and healing, but a part of healing is acceptance, right? And a part of acceptance, right, is feeling confident, okay, in who you are, right? So that you can feel confident in who you are becoming. All right. So that you can feel confident in who you are becoming. All right. Again, the muscle of confidence only grows when the mindset gives it permission to lift. And what are we lifting? We're lifting our life, right? Our love of self, our interactions with others, our focus in our energy and emotions, right? And we're accepting that for what it is today. And like Candace shared today, and sometimes that's going to be frustrating. And sometimes that's going to feel sad. And sometimes it's going to feel grateful and joyful. I was talking to a friend last night, and they had an experience over the weekend with an individual who was great and amazing, right? And they're just saying like, man, it was just so on point and so in alignment, but I'm not gonna get my head, really built up or big because it'll fall down or it's not going to last. And I'm like, of course it's not going to last, right? But why not accept this as life showing you that this is what you want, this is what you need? Why are you attaching struggle to this aligned feeling of, this person showed up the way you wanted them to show up. It felt right to your spirit, like you were able to express yourself. Why it can't be that? Why do you have to diminish it like the shoe is going to drop? Because here's the truth, is the shoe is going to drop. But you also have, in that same voice, you also have people that you don't align with, that you feel like are drains and not bosses in your life, that you work and you're so optimistic about those relationships getting better, you know? And it's just this nuance that we have, like this relationship that this person is showing up for you and doing all the great things that you want them to do. Is like, oh, the shoe is going to drop. But the people who don't do these things, you're optimistic and hopeful that they're going to change. And it's just like we have to in some way accept the good for what it is, accept the bad for what it is, and lift them both. Okay, and lift them both. Okay. Number two, old stories weaken your emotional core. Okay. Old stories weaken your emotional core. Even when you're capable, you guys, listen, you can be qualified, you can be brilliant, you can be gifted, right? But if the narrative is still rooted in unworthiness, okay, your confidence will collapse under pressure. All right. Your confidence will collapse under pressure. Listen, strength isn't just physical or mental, it's emotional permission to trust yourself. All right. It's the emotional permission to trust yourself. This is again why the work that I do. Okay. So we have mindset people that work on mindset. We have people who work on will, right? To help you with your will. You have a whole lot of different experts, right? But the work I do is this emotional permission, right? It's it's feeling safe enough with you, right? Because of the trauma, because of the things that have happened to you, that we're out of relationship with our emotion. Okay. All right. So strength isn't just about the physical things we do. It's not about the mental things we do, you guys. It's about the emotional permission to really trust yourself, right? So many of my clients, right? They look strong on the outside, but on the inside, they're repeating old beliefs like, I have to get it right the first time, right? If I mess up, I'll lose credibility. No one sees me anyway. Why even try? Right? These are the silent sabotagers, right? Or these are the silent sabotage of strength. This inner critic that is just in our heads, that is making us doubt who we are. And again, we talked about the inner critic last week, where like, listen, this inner critic it's the drain, right? It's draining you of your thoughts, of your ability, of the energy that you need to really activate and move. And this is why it's so important too to have a community around you, so you can share energy, so you can share insight, so you can be supported. All right. Number three, true strength, right? True strength is built when your belief system aligns with your becoming. All right. So strength isn't just about doing hard things, you guys. It's about being rooted in truth that makes you unshakable. Listen, confidence grows when your internal story matches your external desires. All right. And it starts with naming the lie, right? Which is the old story, right? Rewriting the belief, which is the new story, and really practicing the actions. And this is difficult to do. I sat with my brother and my sister this weekend, and we're talking about like all things like the Cassie stuff and the Diddy stuff, and the just the stuff that's going on in the world. And and really unpacking, and challenging a lot of these narratives, right, about what it is to be a woman. Well, a part of my position was challenging a lot of these old stories, right? What it means to be a woman, growing up in a patriarchal society, right? And really rewriting, right, these new beliefs about the what's possible for us, in our actions, in our thoughts, and in our words. And that's a heavy lift, you guys. It's a heavy lift because guess what? I say that there's 10 criteria in your life, 10 things, 10 sections, right? So you have your relationships, you got your learning, you got your health, you got your spirituality, you got all of these places, right? So although like in my business, and I'm just gonna be transparent. So just say in my business, if I was to say 1 to 10, I'm like a 9 in my business. Like I'm showing up, the clients are coming in, right? But then if I say my health, right, I'm like, man, I'm at a 5, right? Like I'm gonna have 5 or 6, like I'm the biggest I've ever been. Like I definitely need to incorporate some different trainings and things like that. A different regimen, like, but because I'm getting older, menopausal, all of the things that come with that. Now it's like this health part of me, right, is combating with the professional me who just became the doctor, who came out with my own model and all of that, right? And these two spaces in my life can collide and can create a sense of what? Unconfident, like I'm not confident. And I have to know that, listen, that's an old story. One, it's different parts of you that's being expressed at different times. Imbalance happens what? Over a lifetime. It doesn't happen in moments, right? And so a lot of my health things, like this weight that I'm carrying, is a consequence of me being focused in business and out of balance in my health. Okay. And once business becomes more stabilized, once my profession becomes more stabilized, then guess what? It will take less focus of me there, which then can create the balance that I need in my personal life. So then my health then can get in order. And guess what? We're juggling those all the time. Okay, so you're juggling aspects of your life all the time, and because you're juggling aspects of your life in different areas of your life, so sometimes, guess what, financially you on point. You know what I mean? Like you hustled, you got the money, but then like the relationship is breaking down. You know what I mean? You're probably on the edge of finna break up. And so you may feel like this lack of confidence. And like I said earlier, sometimes we can um we can we can mix one confidence with unworthiness, right? We can mix that a lack of confidence with like the uncertainty with confidence, right? And so we need to learn how to really start to, I'm not saying this, I'm saying this gently, but segment our life, because balance happens over a lifetime and we want it all right now, right? I want my money, I want my health, I want my relationship. I want my life with God. I want my kids. I want all of that to be 100% in this moment for me to feel what? Confident. And it's like I get it. I get it. That's the goal, right? And that may always be the goal, right? That get you up and get you motivated in the morning. But what can you work on right now? Right, where can you show up at right now that you can bring some focus into, right? And when you bring focus in that area, it's going to create a misbalance in other areas of your life. Okay, and then now what in this out of balance part, right? If it's relationship, so let's go back to the finances. You're doing well financially, right? But your relationship is falling apart. All right, one, that's a signal. Okay. So what do you need to do? Right? What do you need to do to hold to the finances and keep balance in the relationship? Right? Maybe it's you need to take that time to, I don't know, talk to your partner or have date nights or do something intentional. And this is where again, um, these stories, that means now I got to disrupt some stories because I got here from a story, right? A belief brought me to this moment. Maybe I believe that I can work hard and money was going to help my relationship, and I'm realizing no matter how much money I got, right, that that's not going to make me happy in a relationship, right? So that may be the old belief that I have to dismantle, rewrite a new belief, right? And then practice it with action. So now to have a healthy bank account in a healthy relationship, I need to what? Rewrite the story. Because obviously the story that got me here is showing me that, oh, that no, I can't just go hard in the paint and get money and leave my relationship dismantled or not do anything, or me having money is not going to automatically make my relationships good. And this is how life again is unfolding. That this is how truth unfolds. Remember, truth reveals itself, right? Beliefs are more static, right? We're living them out, but as we live out these beliefs, then our truth is revealed. In my case, my story was that I could work, right? And then I can try to I see a personal trainer twice a month. I mean, twice a week. I can get up, I can work, and sometimes I can kind of take off or I can adjust my schedule. And I realized, no, Sheila, that story is just not going to work for you. Like, you literally need dedicated time and you need to commit to that time, because I can be very flexed in like, oh, I'll do that later on, or, and pushing that back and feeling like I can be flexible in my life. It's just like, no, it's some things that you're just going to have to commit to. And so this season is a season for me of discipline and commitment, right? Yeah, discipline and commitment and doing what I say I'm going to do, especially in my body. So if I'm saying I'm going to work out every day or walk every day, then I need to be walking every day and feel, right? And feel the uncomfortness, the whatever that feeling is that comes with me activating that space of commitment. Right. My apologies for going long on that. Listen, what you need to know is that you don't need to get stronger, you guys. You just need to stop telling yourself weak stories. All right. That the belief I'm not enough or I'm not enough yet is not humility. It's robbing you, right? It's a thief. And that your brain, right, takes its cues from your narrative, okay? Not your talent. So you can be very smart, very witty, but your brain is going to take its cues from your narrative, not your talent. And listen, every time you show up in truth, okay, every time you show up in truth, you're spot training for your divinity. All right. So every time you show up in truth, you're really spot training for this divine person, right? You're giving that part of you a chance to live. All right. And then the stories you tell yourself today become the strength, right? You stand on tomorrow. So that's why it's so important for you to tell yourself truths today so that truth can be your foundation, okay, for tomorrow. All right. Here's some additional things I want you to know that stories don't have to be true to shape your reality. They just have to be repeated. All right. Stories don't have to be true to shape your reality. They just need to be repeated. Listen, the brain doesn't filter out truth versus lie. Again, it's the most unconditional part of you. All right. It filters repetition and it filters repetition versus unfamiliarness. All right. So if someone has told you for 20 years, right, that you're too much, that story becomes your default. All right. That story becomes your default setting, even though it's not true. All right. So the goal isn't to just change what you believe, it's to interrupt what was rehearsed. Right. So if you've been told you're 40 or 45 and you're the person in the family that's been told like, oh, you're the caregiver or you're the one that everybody can depend on, all right, and that is just not true. Right? Like, I am not the person in the family that everybody can depend on because I don't want to be that. But if you've heard it for 20 years, guess what, when people call you, guess what you do? You're the person that they can depend on. You become that, right? Not because it's true, but because it was repeated to you over and over and over again. All right. And so you need to interrupt what was rehearsed in your life. All right. And a lot of us are misaligned and resentful and bitter because people are calling on us to do a thing that we don't agree is our truth, but we're acquiescing to it, right? Because we've been told that about ourselves in the positive or in the negative. So, you're the good girl, right? And so many people, because you've been told you're the good girl, you're not really allowing an aspect of you to be seen because as a guy you've been told you're the provider, whatever that is, right? You're not allowing yourself to be fully expressed because you haven't interrupt what has been rehearsed in your life. Listen, you don't have to fight every false belief. You just need to stop rehearsing it. All right, you need to stop rehearsing it. uh strength isn't something Strength is not the absence of fear, you guys. It's the ability to act in the present, in the presence of a new belief. Listen, I want you to understand that feeling scared doesn't mean that you're weak, right? It just means that you're using um it just means that you're using old muscles for new moments. All right. All right. Confidence doesn't cancel fear, you guys. it just stops letting fear lead. Okay. Confidence doesn't cancel fear, it just stops letting fear lead. And so many of us have been led by fear so much of our life. Okay. So when we're talking about confidence, we're not talking about the absence of fear. We're just going with it. It's just not leading us anymore. All right. All right. I mean, fear is just not leading us anymore. A couple of more. Listen, your inner dialogue really determines your outer resilience. So, what you say to yourself when no one's watching, listen, that's the real strength training, right? That's the real strength training. Confidence doesn't begin on stage, you guys. It starts in the mirror when you look at yourself. What are you saying about yourself at night when you're listening to these voices? How are you combating, that inner critic? Listen, the real work is micro moments of telling yourself the truth about who you are, all right, every day. Your strongest muscle is your self talk. Strengthen it with truth, you guys. And again, what truth, if you don't have it? Biblical wisdom, affirmations, things that is truth. For me, it is biblical. It's very divine, knowing that I was created with love, power, and a sound mind, knowing that everything is working for my good and believing in a higher power that created, this life, this world, right? And gave me purpose, right? So even when I'm not feeling full of that all the time, like I can tap into this divine source, and I encourage you to do the same. All right. Listen, if the story still centers around needing to be seen or approved, listen, confidence will always be conditional. All right. If your story, if your story still is centered around needing to be seen or approved, guess what? Confidence will always be conditional. This is big for a couple of you guys who confuse visibility with validation. All right. All right. True confidence isn't about being seen. True confidence is not about being seen. It's about knowing who you are when nobody is clapping, right? When nobody is clapping, listen, you don't need to you don't need to be picked to show up like you belong, okay? And so many of us is waiting to be picked, waiting for the husband to come, waiting for the wife to come, waiting for the supervisor to see us, waiting for somebody to, see you on social media, just waiting, okay? Listen, if your story still again centers around needing to be seen and approved, confidence will always be conditional, all right? We have to stop confusing again visibility with validation. All right. And then last but not least, you can't build confidence from a place of punishment. You cannot build confidence from a place of punishment. Listen, if you're trying to get better because you believe you're failing, right? You're reinforcing a lie. Listen, confidence must be built from compassion, okay? And not from correction. All right. This is especially healing for a lot of people who have used in equating who are used to equating growth with self-criticism. Listen, don't build confidence from shame, you guys. Build it from remembering who you are. This is such a different aspect because I do know that a lot of us feel like um yeah, that this whole correcting or this punishing ourselves in some way is going to get us like together, but it's not sustainable. Again, it's back to that saying, like the visibility thing. That visibility, we're confusing visibility with validation. A lot of us are showing up, but we're showing up from fear. We're showing up from having to. What's making me show up today is because not because I'm confident, but because the punishment, because the punishment of if I don't show up, what's going to happen. And so many of us have lived in that, right? That when that consequence isn't there, then the behavior, then we can't do it, right? And we want to show up from a different space, not from this consequent punishment place, but really from this is who I am. And so that's a more internal, if that makes sense. Put a 5 in the chat for me. So, and again, I do think a lot of us have showed up in life in our relationships as mates, as parents, as as things, not from this competent, confident place, but truly from this fear, shame, and guilt place. right? And if I don't show up and if I don't do this, what they're going to think about me. And if I don't do this, and how they're going to feel about me. And we're showing up from this false space. And then when all of that goes away, we still feel this unworthiness on the inside, or we still feel this lack of enoughness on the inside. And it's because we have been motivated through punishment. All right. Good morning, Dewana. How you doing? Love. I love you. All right. All right. Let's go to our biblical wisdom. Okay. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat. All right. I know. So one of the conversations that I was having was before we go into biblical wisdom was that I need to find a villain. Right. I need to find a villain for you guys because I know that I don't speak villain or victim mentality, right? So you don't hear me talk about the devil made you do this, right? So that's not your villain. I'm not the therapist or the coach that's going to blame anybody for your condition. And I know that's tough, right? Because a lot of times we need the villain. We need the villain so that we can play the victim, right? And I need to play the victim because a part of this victim mentality is the punishment, it's the motivation, right? And then I need a hero, right? And who gonna be my hero? God. God is gonna be my hero, or the husband that come, or the circumstances that's gonna come. And so I don't really placate into that mythology, right? And so I feel like a lot of times, people are listening, right? And they're hearing, but the motivation to really act and move may be a little more hesitant, right? Because there is no true villain. Like I've watched a lot of shows. It's like, yeah, the devil came in, and the devil is alive. I'm not going to say that the devil is alive because I feel like there's an enemy, and the enemy is sometimes just your old beliefs and your old stories. So one of these things is like, what is going to be the villain, right? That I provide to my audience about villains a lot, right? I'm really talking about empowering you. I'm really talking about, hey, taking control, because it's so challenging for me because I do know that there's a society that's blaming who? The narcissist, that's blaming your mama, that's blaming the devil, that's blaming society, that's blaming Donald Trump, that's blaming the system, that's blaming all of these people for the reason your life is the way it is right now. And I get on here and I'm like, hey, here's today's life lesson. You know, you're telling yourself a lie, right? It's a story, right? And this is why emotional intelligence is so important, because again, that's a paradigm, right? This victim mentality is or this victim paradigm is actually a paradigm, or this duty paradigm. They're all paradigm. And the more we can live in our truth, right, the more we can kind of move in God and be generous and be compassionate with ourselves. So I introduced that because we wanted to our biblical wisdom, but I want you to think about, who is the villain? Who is your villain, right? Is it society? Is it your parents? Like, who is your villain? And I want you to drop that in the chat for me. All right. So I can develop language to meet your needs a lot better, right? And how I'm showing up in these life lessons, because I don't really speak of the villain a lot. And when it goes back to this punishment thing, right? You can't build confidence from a place of punishment. If there was a villain there, right, then that would make you the victim, right? And then the punishment, this whole idea of shaming you or guilting you, right? Or doing that could be your motivation. And I just don't want that for you, right? I don't want that for you. Okay. Um, the one said myself, okay, right. Yeah, me, right. Me. I'm my biggest villain because I believe the lie. And again, I'm talking about as adults, okay? Or I wasn't willing to do the work, right? I wasn't willing to sit down and look at my stories and really, say, okay, what got you here? And be honest with myself, and feel all of the stuff that comes with every decision that I made, right? From either consciously or unconsciously, okay? All right, consciously or unconsciously, all right? right? And so that we can then be our own heroes, because like I said, God has already done what God gonna do. I believe that, okay, right? And how do I know that? Because he said that within the seed is the seed. All right, so he created the just say the rose one time, right? Or he delegated it to the earth to create the rose, right? But in the rose, what was the seed? All right, for that rose to what? Create other roses in us. Okay, we have wombs. Okay, so you have the sperm, you have the egg, right? They come together. What do they create? Humans, right? And then who does those humans become? A mirror of what? Their environment. All right, we become a mirrors of our environment. So a big part of my blueprint was what my grandma taught me. You know what I mean? What my mama taught me, what I saw, what I didn't see, right? That is the replication. But God created a seed a long time ago. And then he did something so great, right? Which was this divine space, this and remember, divinity is our unlimited potential, right? Or overcoming, right, these limitations, right? That's what make us divine. And so in our divinity, right, we can what? We can get a renewed mind, right? We can let go of the yesterdays. We can forgive. We can have compassion, right? We can start to embody this thing. So now the conditions that I used to live in, right? The what my mama told me, what my grandma taught me, what the world taught me about me, there starts to be this conflict within me. That's like, that's not true. And then I can go on this personal journey, right? I can go on this personal journey and I can rewrite, and that's the power of stopping now. I can rewrite, this story, all right, of who I am, and I can align it with God's intent for my life, right? And in the intent, I'm not even talking about the behaviors, but in the behaviors side of it, I'm saying in the mindset of it, right? In the fact that I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. So when I know I'm beautifully wonderfully made, guess what? That means that I can have a totally different conversation with you that's going to create a different outcome. But if I don't feel beautifully and wonderfully made, then that's going to determine what our interaction. All right, if that makes sense, put a heart in the chat. So in our biblical wisdom, we know that I'm trialing this thing where we're going to do this the same verses the whole week and just look at this verse from different aspects. Okay, so the verse for this week is going to be Timothy, 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not only given us the spirit of fear, but God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. Right? Listen, you don't have to earn courage, right? It's already in your design, okay? You don't have to earn courage. It's already in your design. Listen, this verse isn't just about motivation, right? So back to Candace's question about courage, like you don't have to earn courage. It's already in your design. But the more you do the courageous act, guess what? You become confident. All right. All right. Listen, this verse isn't just about a motivational quote, you guys. It's a reminder of what's really living inside of you. It's not telling you to go get power, go get love and go get clarity. It's telling you that you already have been given these things, right? You already have been given these tools. And fear, okay, this thing of fear did not come from God. So you don't have to keep carrying it. All right. You don't have to keep allowing it to be the driver for you. All right. It can be in existence, but it doesn't have to determine how you move because it's not a part of your divinity. All right. All right. Okay. So confidence doesn't require a new identity, right? It requires you to remember. Again, this is what I'm telling you. Like, this ain't about creating a new you. This is about allowing the you to be revealed, right? It's about allowing the you that got off course, maybe when you was 3 years old, that's when your trauma started, right? And detoured you off, right? But this is about coming back to, right? Coming back to. All right. So confidence doesn't require new identity. It really requires you to remember what's already yours, right? So power, the courage to act without the need of applause and certainty. Okay. That's what power is. It's just the courage to act without the need for applause and certainty. All right. Love, listen, compassion for yourself, while you grow, while you make mistakes, while you get frustrated, while you get it wrong, guess what? You still love, right? Because you know it's in you. It's more of a mindset than it is a feeling. I know it's here, whether I feel it or not. Okay. All right. In a sound mind, just the ability to regulate your thoughts, even when you're spiraling, right? Even when emotions try to take you down, right? This sound mind that I know I have, I don't have to now use words to say, "Oh, I'm crazy. I'm thinking crazy." My thought, no, 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 that ain't even divine, right? Because God created me what with love, power, and a sound mind. So I am sound. Now God revealed to me my soundness. All right. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat. Okay. What this means for you is that you don't have to wait to feel ready, you guys, because readiness is your spiritual inheritance. It's your divine inheritance. Every time you doubt yourself, you're rehearsing a spirit that was never given to you, not by God, right? Yeah, but it may have been given to you by your condition. I mean, by your environment. It may have been taught to you by through somebody else's limitations, right? It may have been rehearsed, okay, by how life ended up showing up, but it's not yours, right? It was never given to you as spiritually ordained. It was a consequence of what? Of just this human thing. So this verse isn't this of being human, all right? So it was just a consequence of your human condition. All right. So this verse isn't about trying harder. It's just about remembering a little deeper, right? A little deeper about who you are. All right. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. Listen, our promise verse for today. Listen, I will strengthen you and help you. This is Isaiah 41 and 10. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my righteous right hand. So this is the promise. Okay. This is a promise. Listen, you're not building alone. Your strength is being supported in real time. That's just the promise for this week. Right. So I want you to know that you're not building alone. All right. That there is a strength, right? There is an entity, an energy, an emotion, a divinity that is supporting you just as much as there's oxygen that you're breathing right now. All right. You don't see it, right? You don't see it at all. But you know that every time you breathe in, it's there, right? It's there. And you don't have to see it in the same way about this support, this promise that I will strengthen you and help you and will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Okay. So, and I want you to know that God works through people. All right. So this divinity also works through people. And you have been a displayer of that when you have helped and you have assisted. And guess what? You ain't the only person with that gift. All right. To help. And so many of us will be the giver, but then we don't want to be the receiver because we have a belief that, well, I don't need them to think I'm needy. Well, okay, you praying to God. If you praying to God, but then you cutting the faucet off because you saying, well, I ain't gonna take from this person or I ain't gonna accept help from this person because I don't want them to think. So what you think God just gonna drop it where? You're gonna find the help under the bed. I'm asking, okay? All right. So if divinity works through people and we all have divinity within us, right? We all have God in us and we're asking and we're praying for help and we're praying for confidence or we're praying for the thing we're praying for, right? But then when it's time for somebody to help and assist you, like, no, 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 I don't need. That's an old story that you gotta break, right? You gotta break that. You gotta stop telling yourself that lie because we all need each other. Okay, and your judgment about my need is not none of my business. I do need your help. Now, if you come help me and then you go run tell that is not a reflection of me and my need. That's more a reflection of you and your character. We're gonna set that right there. If you come to me and you ask me for help, or if I come to you and I ask you for help, and then you assist me and you help me, right? And then you turn around and you talk, and my fear of not getting help from you is that you're gonna say something about me. Okay, one, that's not my business. I need the help. So, yes, come help me. Right. And then you come help me. And in that same tone, you go call somebody and you talk about the help that you provided me or the condition that I'm in. Guess what? That ain't an onus on me. That's more a reflection of your character. All right. So, okay, let's go into this promise verse because listen, you need to know that You're not building this alone, okay? Your strength is being supported in real time. All right. It's being supported in real time. Um, all right. So again, so do not fear, for I am with you, and do not be dismayed, for I am God. I will strengthen you, and I will help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Listen, this verse isn't God watching you from a distance. It's a divine support from within. It's this divine support from within. I am with you isn't a cheer from the sidelines. It's a voice in your chest. All right. It's a voice in your chest that says, breathe, move, you're doing this. It's a voice in your chest that's saying, breathe, move, and you're not doing this on your own. Listen, you don't have to build confidence alone, you guys, because strength is being added to you while you're strengthening. All right. Right. You don't have to build confidence alone, because strength is being added to you while you're being strengthened. And listen, the verse, I will strengthen you, even in hesitation, support is being added. All right. All right. Number two, I will help you. Listen, grace meets you at the edge of your bravery, you guys. All right. And I will uphold you. You're not going to fall apart just because you feel unsure. And a lot of us feel like, because I feel uncertain, that things are going to fall apart. That's just not true. All right. So although we're building a relationship with our emotions, you guys, we also need to know how to check our emotions, because some of our emotions are bringing in things that's not true. And we hear this thing like the heart is deceptive, and all of those things. And I'm not saying that that's not true. What's happening is that emotion is triggering, right, a false story. So when I feel vulnerable, that feeling of uncertainty creates or triggers a narrative about this current moment that has nothing to do with this current moment. It's about the first time I may have felt that feeling, right? And because I'm not in relationship with my emotions in a way that's healthier, because I'm not, the driver in my seat, I may feel this feeling, and now I'm associating this feeling with a lie, that, oh yeah, this came up in the pit of my stomach, and so it's telling me not to go. And and I got this feeling, and it's just like, okay, let's explore that. Is it really a feeling, or is it a trigger? Right? Did you feel vulnerable and now you feel triggered to retreat because you're scared? And if that is the case, okay, right, but let's talk about that. Right, let's talk about that. All right, so what this means is that uh, what this means for you is that sometimes you feel not supported, and that discomfort of growth is proof that oh here's what this means: you're not unsupported, right? And this comfort that you feel is proof that helps you to activate, right? Not abandon yourself. Listen, because confidence is you trusting in the God in you, in the divinity in you, to carry the weight while you learn how to walk. All right. So there's this divinity in you that definitely understands that, one, everything is working for your good, right? That understands that practice makes better, okay? That understands that, yeah, we feeling this way, but we gonna get through it, and we have to learn how to trust that divinity is connected to other people. And what ends up happening is now God starts to draw other people towards you to really help you get through the thing that you're trying to accomplish. All right, listen, both these scriptures, when grounded, okay, becomes activation codes. All right. uh so here's the thing: not scriptures these are not scriptures to really memorize, but they are mirrors to uh for you to remember who you are. All right. All right. And these are not a call to strive, but an invitation to really trust, right? To really trust the process. Listen, I want you to know that there is a God within you, this divine voice that's really helping, your identity. All right. Because you're never really walking alone. You just forgot. You were never weak. You were never weak. You're never really walking alone, and you were never weak. You just forgot, your strengths. All right. And it's okay, because we're gonna find that strength. right? On this journey together. So how do we put this into practice? All right. How do we put this into practice? So our action steps is I want you to identify one area, all right? Identify one area um, where you're waiting to feel ready. All right. Okay. And then I want you to take one small step before your confidence arrives. And then I want you to reflect on how it felt afterwards. All right. And if you need a prompt, right, those action steps really don't work, or you want a journal prompt to help kind of solidify this. Even when I wasn't fully confident, I still what? All right. And then what stories am I ready to rewrite about my confidence? And then your affirmation for today. All right. Your affirmation for today is I build confidence every time I show up before I feel ready. All right. I build confidence every time I show up before I feel ready. All right. And then our intention for today, I stop waiting and okay, I start becoming. All right, your intention for today. Today, I start waiting and I start becoming. And then, if you want that bonus challenge, listen, choose one area today: work, relationship, health. And I want you to take a small step, right? A small, brave step. All right. Um, and I want you to take a small, brave step and then rest when you usually push through. Okay. So I want you to take one small brave step today, basically, right? And then repeat the affirmation above. All right. Which is I build confidence every time I show up and I feel ready. All right. And then we all know that I'm gonna do that call, that action, that challenge, and that charge today. So if you guys, I'm putting these in after as I'm saying this, I forgot to put it in the thing. So our call today is listen, what truth are you walking away with today? The challenge is what action will you take before the confidence shows up? And then, your charge is already always to go shape your life. Don't wait to feel ready. Show up anyway. Today, like, don't get ready. What is it saying? Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Listen, if today session really resonated with you, right, and you're walking away with some insight. Okay, if you're walking away with some insight today, you already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat. Good morning, Tiana. Drop a fire in the chat. Drop a fire in the chat. All right. I want you to know that if you could shape it in your mind, always remember if you could shape it in your mind, you could have it in your life. Listen, I love you. I love you. I love you. And tomorrow we will explore how self-sabotage isn't failure. It is feedback. All right. How self-sabotage isn't failure. It is feedback. Again, I love you. I love you. And I'll see you tomorrow for that life lesson. Till later.